Hello, my name is Ezekiel Ajao. I welcome you to this lesson on the subject knowledge management in organizations. In the brief moment together, right now we'll be looking at knowledge management. What is knowledge management and why is this so important in organizations and why organizations must take knowledge management very serious in their respective offices. Please follow me as we go through. The lesson objectives are four. We'll be looking at what is we want to define what is knowledge. What is knowledge management? We'll be looking at that. And then what are knowledge management systems in organizations? We want to look at them and what role do they play in organizations. And finally, we want to look at the reason why organizations must be deliberate about managing knowledge within their respective systems. So let us define knowledge. Knowledge derives from data. Data is something we're all familiar with in organizations. We get data from the different transactions within an organization. When the data is organized, we talk of having an information. So often you have reports, business reports, MIS reports, they come in, we call them information when they are put together. Now, knowledge derives from that information that we're talking about. So we need to transform. The organization must process the information they have to really acquire knowledge. So really, additional resources must be applied on the information that organizations have before they can be turned to knowledge. And when we talk about knowledge, this is about patterns, rules, context, where the knowledge works. And you find examples, if you look at the typical email within an organization, as staff and managers, employees exchange knowledge about how, as they interpret the information they have in their hands, they begin to exchange what they're able to derive from that information. Even corporate reports, reports of sales, costs reports, general ledger reports, all those together form knowledge. Even within the organizations, you talk of standard operating procedures, operation manuals. If you look at those manuals, the way the organization operates are clearly documented, and they all form a body of knowledge, very valuable asset within the organization. And then the fourth part of this definition is wisdom. And it's thought to be the collective and individual experience of applying knowledge to the solution of problems. So you see, those four terms are very, very important. When we operate within an organization, we focus on gathering data. From the data, we want to make sense from them by really deriving information to categorize the data. Now, knowledge is all about how we now use that information for the benefit of the organization. Now, having defined, let's move on and look at the different dimensions of knowledge. Basically, in an organization, knowledge is one of those intangible assets. You cannot touch, you cannot hold it, but we all know it is very, very important in every organization. And really, from one industry to the other, you find different significance. If you go to a consultancy outfit, for instance, they trade in knowledge basically. If you go to manufacturing environments, yes, knowledge is paramount even in that environment because knowledge about how they do the manufacturing, how they combine raw materials, is the kind of knowledge that the company really thrives upon. There are different forms of knowledge. It could be tacit or explicit. When we say it's tacit, this is knowledge that is not written down. Everybody knows it around. And when it's explicit, like I've talked about business reports, those are explicit knowledge that they've been codified, they've been written down. And then we have a category of knowledge that's all about the know-how, the skill of the personnel. They already know how they do their thing within the organization. All that constitutes knowledge. And then another dimension of knowledge is procedures within the organization. This is how we do things. When organizations employ a new staff, for instance, they hand over the procedure. This is how we do this. That's a valuable asset within the organization. Also, knowledge involves knowing how to follow those procedures, and knowing why, and not simply when things happen. Why do they happen the way they happen? All these form the dimensions of knowledge. And we must bear in mind too that knowledge has a location. For instance, if you refer to a report, it's probably in a file in a computer system somewhere, or if it has been printed, it's on the paper. Everybody know, people will know where the paper is, whoever is holding that knowledge. And at times, you look at individuals, experts within the organization, they host the knowledge in their head. They have mental models of the knowledge. Maybe they've been in the organization for a while, they already know what to do, but they don't need to consult manuals to do what they need to do. So the knowledge is right in their head. You find knowledge in the social circle, as members within the organization, whether you use Yammer or use any of this, that's Microsoft Yammer, or any of these collaborative tools within organizations, a lot of knowledge is inbuilt in those portals, in those platforms, because our staff exchange ideas. They are putting a whole lot of things there. Oh, maybe this customer has asked for this. Oh, I've given that customer what he asked for last week. That's a form of knowledge, very valuable, that is stored in the social media. And then even the culture of an organization warehouses knowledge, and that is very, very valuable for every organization. Organizational learning is another topic that comes into discussion when we talk about knowledge in organizations, and it's all about learning and adjusting behavior to reflect how that learning is used for the benefit of the organizations. Okay, now that we have defined knowledge and we have discussed the dimensions of different dimensions of knowledge, I will be looking at what is knowledge management. Lodron, one of our authors in this subject, defines knowledge management as a set of business processes developed in an organization to create, to store, transfer, and apply knowledge. That's what knowledge management is all about. 4 stages. You must acquire the knowledge, store that knowledge somewhere. You acquire from different sources, store somewhere, and then from there you can share. Knowledge must be shareable with others, and then those that you share it to must be able to apply it for the benefits of the organization. Knowledge management studies have shown that knowledge management is a requirement for organizations to succeed in this highly competitive world that we are in right now. Every company that wants to be efficient and competitive must have a robust knowledge management practice in place. And if you go to the literature, there are so many journals we have now. I mean, since about 1990, when the focus on knowledge management really started, with authors like Peter Drucker. I mean, there are so many of them that have written so much, and a lot of research work is going on in knowledge management in the world we are in right now. And one of the journals highly ranked, that is highly recommended for those that may want to study knowledge management and knowledge management systems, is the Journal of Knowledge Management. Actually, in a recent survey ranking all journals around knowledge management, this particular journal came up tops. Organizations are spending a lot of money on knowledge management all over the world today, having seen how important. We are in the information age. Knowledge management is so important. And the data from the U.S. Department of Labor show that as of 2016, 55% of the GDP of the United States is generated by the knowledge and information sectors. Very important topic in the world. Now, let's look quickly at the drivers of knowledge management. Why is it being taken so serious in businesses today? 4 major drivers were highlighted by Wayback Machine. Now, you find the details in my references list to get more information about this. The very first one of them is knowledge attrition. A recent study shows that the staff turnover in organizations is as high as 20%. And in fact, 81% of organizations surveyed actually indicated staff turnover as a critical issue for them, one of the things that give them serious nightmares. Why? Because they spend so much money to train staff, to train employees. Those employees can just change their job, they move on to other employment. In fact, we've seen cases where in the world we live in now, the average stay of an employee in an organization is probably 2 years. Meanwhile, within the 2-year organization will have trained this staff. When they move on with all the knowledge. So organizations, in a way to really make sure they get good returns on that investment, they deploy knowledge management systems There be a robust knowledge management practice in place to ensure that the knowledge given to staff, the knowledge they've acquired on the job is actually kept, is stored in some form of documentation, in videos, in audios, in a big knowledge repository that other staff can have access to, even when people go. It's one of the ways organizations use today to survive in this high staff attrition level. Another driver of knowledge management that make the knowledge management to really have so much emphasis in businesses today is what we call knowledge merging, what Wayback Machine calls knowledge merging. And the point here is that in recent time, there have been acquisitions, mergers between corporates. And you know, when two corporates merge, most times these are two corporates or three corporates of different cultures, different knowledge levels, different efficiency levels. When they merge, somehow something will give way, some knowledge will be lost. Because when there are acquisitions, for instance, the senior partner, the junior partner, all the knowledge in the junior partner system will most likely will be gone. If a recent study showed that since 1980, the annual value of mergers has risen by 100 times to a cumulative of $15 trillion as at 1999. And you agree with me, this trend still continue. So for organizations to survive in this kind of environment, even where an organization acquires another, the knowledge of the ones who have acquired, even where you let go of many of the staff, you need the knowledge of those staff that are going. When you have them warehoused properly in a knowledge repository, it's for the benefit of the organization. So this is one of the drivers, one of the reasons why organizations take knowledge management so serious today. A third reason is the fact that knowledge management systems give organizations a large storage, to keep computer storage to warehouse knowledge. And again, a recent study showed that a typical company actually holds in a year about 15,000 gigabytes of data. Just one company, as at 1999. And there's a compound annual growth of this volume of data of 78% that we are seeing. One of the factors responsible for this is the dropping cost. You know, the cost of storage is really coming down year on year. With the growth of social media, the growth of data, with data mining, big data world we are in now, a lot of data is being generated by organizations. That data, you want to have them kept somewhere where they can be used by the organization for the benefit, so that it can have a positive impact on the bottom line of those organizations. So the content, being able to mine this content is one of the drivers of knowledge management in the world we live in. The fourth reason why knowledge management is receiving so much attention is the need for e-learning. Again, with e-learning technology that has grown so well now, where organizations are able to create learning on demand. Gone are the days where you must have somebody standing before somebody or before a class to do teaching. Today, there are e-learning portals within organizations and even in the public space. With portals like Udemy, for instance, you can go and learn, go on a training on any area of knowledge that you want. And most of the courses are paid, some are free. LinkedIn too has its own, and these systems are so useful that a staff, just one person can sit and learn a topic. Have proper learning, the system will give you assessment. The system is able to assess how much you have learned in each of the lessons. In fact, the one we're going through right now, this lesson that I'm taking you through, is a typical example. Knowledge management has made this possible, and it's one of the reasons why knowledge management is growing. There's so much emphasis. So let's quickly look at the knowledge management value chain to give us a better understanding of what knowledge management is all about. I've told us earlier that there are 4 components to knowledge management, 4 stages. You acquire, you store, you disseminate, that is sharing, and then you apply. So when you have a knowledge management practice or system in place, these 4 areas must be well covered by a functional knowledge management system. And you have information system, technology systems that help to coordinate all the different activities. To acquire, for instance, you acquire data from so many sources, you acquire information and knowledge from so many sources. Data mining helps you to acquire knowledge, expert systems, from expert knowledge, even individuals in the organization that have the expertise, knowledge in them. Organizations should find a way to codify them onto a computer system for the benefit of others. Information systems enable you to store knowledge in content management systems. We'll be looking at content management next to really see how useful they have become in organizations. And then you have knowledge databases, you have expert systems, computer programs that helps us to store. When you look at a computer program that programs payroll, for instance, inside that program, the knowledge of how payroll is processed is already inbuilt. That's a massive asset there that must be taken seriously in organizations. And then talking about disseminating information, there are information systems that we call portals that facilitate knowledge sharing among staff. Very functional. There are search engines, not just in the public space, even among corporate entities that they're able to use to share information amongst them. There are collaboration tools, workflow systems, the SharePoint, a whole number of tools that are being used to collaborate. Microsoft Teams and all that. Even social business tools like Microsoft Yammer, they're all being used to share knowledge within organizations. And then the fourth one is about application. There are information systems really dedicated to application that enables organizations to use knowledge to support decision making. And we have enterprise applications in this area. There are robotics. So talking about the knowledge value chain, these are the four parts, the four stages that knowledge passes through from acquiring down to where it's applied for the benefit of the organization. Now, to make all this work well, management has a role to play, and there are organizational activities that ensures that these four stages that we talked about, that they move very smoothly. For instance, management must deploy the right technology, must acquire the right technology, the right cloud service, for instance, the right social networks to ensure that the value chain works well, the right policies, even security systems must be put in place. And you will find new IT-based business processes, new products and services are generated when you apply knowledge, properly. So really the value chain is very, very important. And let us see how knowledge moves and how it ends up being useful to the organization as a body. So let's look quickly. Okay, now that we have defined knowledge, we have defined what knowledge management is, we want to look at the knowledge management system. That's our ultimate, in this conversation. What are knowledge management systems? One of our authors in this subject, Lodon, actually defined knowledge management as a system that supports the creation, capture, storage, and dissemination of a firm's expertise and knowledge. That's what a knowledge management system is. And from the way the name goes, the knowledge management system is technology driven. It's a system that you must plan properly, work out how you want to create, capture, store, and disseminate and apply knowledge. You have to do a proper desk work before you then begin to apply technology. So normally, a knowledge management system, we can call it just KMS for short, collects relevant information across the company, and it makes it available to the relevant personnel who have been given the right authority wherever they are and whenever they want it. They are able to use it to improve business processes and to take management decisions. One other aspect of KMS we must look at is that beyond managing the knowledge available within the organization, a KMS must link the firm to even external sources of knowledge. Because for a firm to thrive well in the world we live in today, you need more than knowledge within your system. what is going on within your industry, what's going on within even the nation, even the global scene, what is going on. You need to be, the staff in the company need to be aware, so that when they have access to this information from a single portal, from a single knowledge repository, they're able to take the right decisions for the benefit of the organization. Now, let's look at some examples of knowledge management systems. There are a number of them that are all over the place now, and they're growing in popularity. One of them is content management system. Actually, as part of this lesson, we're going to look at one of them as a case study. We have enterprise content management systems that warehouses structured, unstructured, semi-structured knowledge for the use of organizations. They get all the information, all this knowledge from all different sources, and they keep them together in one repository where staff can have access to, and they have access to massive knowledge that they can use wisely to grow the business. Another example of a learning management system is a learning management system, an LMS. The learning management system enables staff, employees to have learning on demand. The staff may just want to acquire knowledge in a particular area of the business. When the company already have an LMS in place, the staff can go at his own convenience, self-service, call up the training on a particular topic, and have the training either within the organization, or the staff could be linked up even with external, with some other training, learning management system that are available in the public, that are generally called the MOOCs, massive open online courses like Udemy, for instance. And in fact, in some situations, discerning organizations even connect their own in-house learning management system to these external ones, like LinkedIn Learning, for instance, so that staff have access to all sort of, to massive library of trainings about the business and about the general topics, even outside there. Expert systems are examples of knowledge management systems. Computer-aided designs are examples of knowledge management systems. Computer-aided designs are generally by engineers to do their drawings right in the computer system. They play around with it before they really finalize the designs. And these ones have become very, very useful. In fact, they are independable tools in the hands of those involved in engineering in the world we live in right now. So we're moving on to our next. So having looked at what knowledge management system is, the schematic I have here, I want to just explain the different technologies that we have in the modern times that support knowledge management system. And it's because these technologies are all developed, that is why knowledge management has become, is really growing seriously in organizations today. So if you look at all the different technologies that supports knowledge management system that we call KMS, workflow, extranet, document management, these are tools you find in a typical organization today. And we can categorize, they have about 9 of those technologies that you can see there. Actually, we can categorize them in as they are used to address the 4 different areas of knowledge management in organizations. For instance, intranets, extranets, groupware, web conferencing systems, document management systems are normally used to acquire knowledge. And then you use data warehouse to store. Now, one of the technologies that is used to store knowledge, and then to now share data, to distribute it. You need education, that is online learning systems, you need training programs, automated knowledge systems, expert networks. Those are technologies that are used to distribute and share, collaborative platforms that are used to share knowledge among staff. And then you have the system technology that help us to apply knowledge. Things like data mining. Data warehouse setting, you want to mine data to drill down, to get better analytics, to get more analytics about what is going on in the system. Data mining is a good technology that is used there to apply knowledge. You have expert systems again that support that are used for decision support. So all of this constitute the tools that technology of today has provided to help us to manage knowledge, and in fact to grow knowledge management systems. And all of them are enhanced by effective workflow and project management practices, as you see there. So that's all, but that's the technology. So really, I mean, the main reason why knowledge management is growing seriously in organizations today is because these different technologies are now available and they are growing. They are growing so well. Chatbots and also they are coming up and they are being used knowledge management. Now, in the study of knowledge management, there are about three major types. They are all grouped into three different types. We have the enterprise-wide knowledge management systems. You have the knowledge work systems. You have the intelligent technique system. Those are the three categories of knowledge management. So really, any knowledge management system you pick out there, they will generally fit into any of these three areas. And if we take them one by one, look at the enterprise-wide knowledge management system, for instance, you find general purpose integrated firmware efforts to collect, store, disseminate, and use digital content and knowledge. So a typical system that falls in this category is enterprise content management system. It's an example of an enterprise-wide knowledge management system. And then you have collaboration and social tools. I mean, where you have a collaboration system like SharePoint, Microsoft SharePoint, for instance, where you have any of these work tools that have staff use generally, even Teams, Microsoft Teams within organizations that are used for staff to collaborate, to share information, to even have video conferencing among them, to share documents. They all fall within this category. And then I've talked about the learning management systems. They all fall within this category. And then talking about, if you look at the second category, knowledge work systems, computer-aided design is a typical knowledge management system that fall within this category. Virtual reality too is an example. You know, with virtual reality, you can just wear a virtual reality device, and then you see it's like you're in another world completely. And that is being used in business today. There are many examples of auto dealers, vehicle dealers, who in the past have to really put many vehicles in the showroom for prospective buyers to look at. This day, with the virtual reality goggle they wear, they can see as if they're seeing physical vehicles. They can really see and even move those things around virtually to really have an experience that is near reality. It's being used today to really grow businesses. And then looking at the third aspect, the third type of knowledge management systems, these are the ones being used to discover patterns and apply knowledge to discrete decisions and knowledge domains. So example of those systems that fall in this third category, you have data mining, you have neural networks, expert systems, genetic algorithms, and intelligent agents like chatbots, robots, all of them fall within this category of knowledge management systems. So basically, there are three categories of them. We'll be going quickly to now look at a particular. You recall I've given an example of a knowledge management system, the enterprise content management (ECM). We'll be focusing on that now before I round up this lesson. We'll be looking at what are ECMSs. That's enterprise content management system. If you look at it today, if you look at the typical organization, knowledge and information come in different forms. You have the structured one, you have the semi-structured, the unstructured. You know, the structured things like format documents, standard operating practices, things like emails. Email will belong to the semi-structured or unstructured type. But when you look at business reports or daily activity report, daily sales, you have accounting reports, trial balance and all that. All those ones, they constitute structured knowledge because they're already well formatted. They can be used onwards, and they can be stored in databases for further analysis. But the semi-structured or unstructured type are those ones that you cannot easily really manage together to search with systems. So you have memos, for instance. You have information stored in folders, even messages, proposals, emails, graphics. These are stored many not only in databases that you can really use data mining tools to begin to dig down into them. Those are unstructured systems. A good enterprise content management system has the capability to store and manage all these different data types for the benefit of the organization. In fact, studies have shown that if you look at enterprise content management system, about 80% of the business content is all about managerial activities, managerial work. So really, we must not focus on just technology alone. The organization has to first understand what knowledge they have, how they want to use it, how they want to apply it, how they want to organize and make them available. So there's a lot of work to do there when you want to implement an enterprise content management system. You have to first do all that homework, do the proper planning before you then use technology to implement those plans. So basically, enterprise content management systems help organizations to manage all these different types of information. And so I want to just show you quickly a schematic of an enterprise content management system. You can see where if you look at the storage, which is a very vital part of an ECM, there must be a unified repository where all the structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data are all kept. That would be a massive storage, centrally kept somewhere, or it could be in some distributed databases that is available to all the individuals who have the authority to really touch them. So you have reports and presentations over a period of time. Some organizations may keep them for 10 years, for 5 years, for 20 years, just to enable them to do trend analysis. Best practices like operation manuals, memos that are exchanged between departments and units, between different levels of organization, the executive management to the operational management, to the middle management, all the different memos that have been flying around, digital slides, email exchanges between the different staff. They are meant to be kept there. None is destroyed. Even graphics, videos, down to training videos, presentations, news feeds, wikis, blogs, employee profiles, every bit of relevant knowledge in the organization. It must be possible to store them in that unified repository in a functional enterprise content management system. Now, once you have it there, you will then have appropriate technologies, basically cloud services that enable users to access the unified repository. And basically, the mobile technology is used, so the staff may be on the move, maybe in the plane, maybe talking to a customer with the vendor or with the customer, and you need access to confirm things. So what are the prices? How much did you sell? What are the prices on this particular thing in 5 years ago or 2 years ago? So that I can then begin to use that information to negotiate with customers. All that must be available on tablets or mobile phones. It not be that, or even personal computers in the hand of staff who are moving around. They must be able to use those ones to connect to the unified repository, to be able to even add more data to it, to add more knowledge, to tag certain knowledge items, to store and to retrieve, and to manage and able to distribute and publish reports. Because among these users are those who even create more knowledge, who are generating reports, who are sending emails, all being stored in the unified repository. So basically, a functional ECM, a good ECM must have capability for classifying, organizing, and managing structured and semi-structured and even unstructured knowledge, and making it available throughout the enterprise, anywhere, whenever people need them. And major ECM systems also facilitate access to external sources of information, like I said earlier, news feeds, what's going on in the industry. You must have access to all that. And really, if you look at the industry today, there are renowned technology companies that focus on providing enterprise content management systems. Companies like EMC, like IBM, like Oracle. And there's a reference I've given there for those that may want to research further to know which. Thank you for listening and for following me on this. Now, before we close this lesson, I want to just give you a case study, a typical application of a knowledge management system and how beneficial it can be to an organization. The case study here is about how the government is using it in New Zealand. There is the Department of Conservation in New Zealand. For short, I'll call it DOC. The mandate of the DOC is to oversee the national park and protect the endangered wildlife and ecosystems and safeguard one of the world's largest marine sanctuaries. It's spanning over 20 million acres in New Zealand, a big task there. And the specific duties that DOC has there is to actually provide educational programs to some specific users. They call them public land users. These are hikers, hunters, campers, fishermen who move around within this marine sanctuary. And the DOC has a mandate to ensure that these people get flood warnings early enough to ensure, just to make sure that they don't fall into, they don't face unnecessary danger, and they must give them enough information to manage threats to native species from invasive plants, animals, pests, and diseases. That is the work of DOC, a government agency right there in New Zealand. Now, how are they able to do this work? They partner with many government agencies within New Zealand to really acquire information, to acquire knowledge, reports, all sorts of information, including news feeds. And they keep the information as at the time of this study. In the report that we have as at 2018, there were about 2.3 million documents that are stored by DOC. And from there, they must be able to respond to inquiries from the general public or for these special users, the hunters and hikers and fishermen who need all this information. And studies show that before an enterprise content management was implemented, only about 7.4% of the 2.3 million documents are searchable because of the rigor of searching for it. Now, to improve on the performance and to solve this problem, the New Zealand Department of Conservation had to deploy an enterprise content management system called ContentWorks. And with this, it's a cloud-based solution. All the government agencies that used to provide them information to store at their DOC, they are connected to this ECM, and they are able to really drop the information in it, in the knowledge repository is properly warehoused there. And then all these users, either the general public or the hunters and hikers who need information to ensure that they're able to live their lives, have their fun, or do their business, their fishing business and all that, through their mobile phones, through their tablets and laptops, they're able to access through the internet, they can access this information, this knowledge repository, and find out what they want at any point in time. And when there's any development, maybe danger coming, flood warnings and all that, the DOC is able to send prompt information to them so that they can immediately know how they want to move around to really go out of danger. And after this implementation, studies show that up to 80% of the 2.3 million documents are now easily accessible and searchable. Imagine, from 7.4%. This shows how a knowledge management system can really be of benefit to an organization. So to conclude my lesson right away, the summary of it all is to let us know that knowledge is an intangible asset of any organization for that matter. Whether the robots are working in the organization or human beings are working there, we need knowledge. Everybody, they all need knowledge to really achieve. And that knowledge is an intangible asset you cannot touch, but it's so vital and very important to the sustainability of any organization. And in fact, knowledge, this valuable asset, when properly managed, can be a primary source of profits and competitive advantage for organizations, any organization for that matter. And the focus of knowledge management really is to connect people, processes, and technology for the purpose of leveraging knowledge, leveraging corporate knowledge. I've talked about that earlier. We talked about knowledge management and even knowledge management system. These are systems you put there that will connect all the people within the environment. It connects all the processes, connect all technologies, all these components together for the purpose of leveraging the corporate knowledge for the ultimate goal of enhancing the performance of the organization, improving efficiency, and really enhancing the competitive advantage. And again, the third point I want us to really hold in our hand as one of our takeaways is that knowledge that cannot be communicated and shared is almost useless. Almost useless if it cannot be communicated and shared. So typically, if a staff that is knowledgeable in an organization just walks away with all the knowledge, where the organization is unable to lock that knowledge down, able to store it somewhere where other staff who are coming or where an environment can have access to it and use it for the benefit of the organization, then such a knowledge is just wasted. And we've talked about what knowledge is. We've talked about the structured, the semi-structured, and the unstructured knowledge in organizations. So you have emails, you have collaboration software, you have teleconferencing devices, even Zoom, you have Microsoft Teams and all that, where even Microsoft Yammer, the organizations use to exchange information among themselves. A lot of knowledge is embedded in all these tools, and the whole idea of knowledge management system is to ensure that all that knowledge is harnessed and made accessible to staff promptly, to relevant staff for the benefit of the organization. And finally, the main point here is that organizations should not just go on implementing an email system, putting in place a SharePoint application, putting in place a Zoom or Microsoft Teams system as different silos. The same organization, the information age that we have now, that we are and will continue to grow, must put all this together and ensure that information in each of these are packed together. Information in each of these platforms, technology platforms, are all put together in a knowledge repository where staff can have access to it. Even where a staff resigns, leaves the system, much of that knowledge as well as also is kept in this repository so that other staff left in the organization, other staff who are joining can have access to it. So you have scenarios where even where an organization that is solving problems for their customers in a help desk environment, as to solve each problem, you want to put in the repository how has this particular problem been solved, so that other staff who are coming don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can just go there and say, I have this problem, how do I solve? They go to the repository and see how it has been solved in the past. In that pool of knowledge, they apply the same thing and they're able to deliver very quickly. So finally, the point here is that organization must be deliberate in managing the information, managing the knowledge in the environment to ensure that they continue as a going concern and to ensure that the knowledge they have is really used to their advantage. Thank you so much for listening to me. So it's time for questions. I'm ready to take any questions from the audience right now. Thank you very much. So please let me know if you have any question. I'm available to respond to your questions. Thank you. By the way, these are my references. These are the resource materials I've consulted, I've used to prepare this lesson. And you find my citations in the slides to the different references you have here. So for adventure, anybody in the audience want to research further or you want to know more about the subtopics, you can easily follow my citations and use any of these references. Thank you. So I'm open to receive questions right now.